Greetings all, Frog here. Let's play the Stanley Parable. I've heard so much about this game. Everybody who's ever played it says it's the greatest thing since sliced cheese. I know nothing about it. Aside from, I think we're an office worker. That's about all I know. It's a free-form game where you interact with the environment, and there's many different endings. It was originally a modification to Half-Life 2, I think, and now it stands on its own. So I'm going to play this for a little bit. And just see what goes on. I don't know if this is the type of game where you play it and get an ending and learn something and go back and play it with what you've learned and get another ending, and if that's the point. I don't know. But we're going to play it at least for the next 4 days because I'm filling in time from after the finish of EU4. So we'll see if I like it. I don't know. When we get into the game, I might have to change the audio settings just a little bit. I did turn on full... captions in the game, and I'm playing it at 1080p with all the stuff to the highest possible, whatever. So let's just go. End is never, the end is never, the end is never, the end is loading. Okay. It's taking a long time to load. Maybe I should have loaded before I started playing. I don't know. I don't know anything about this game. It could break in just a second. It's only been on Linux for a year and a half. Here we go. Next time I'll make sure that it's loaded, although I pretty much plan to record these 4 right in a row. Oh, never mind. Taking a while again. It's fine. It's fine. Click to skip.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
I'll let him talk.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
At least he gets his own office.
Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Good for Stanley.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley.
Semicolons.
Something
Nice.
he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Okay, so it's WASD motion. You move with the mouse to look around, but to actually move, it's WASD. W to forward, S to move back, A and D to strafe. What I do know is that this game is going to be narrated, and you can choose to pay attention to the narrator, or you can ignore the narrator. We're going to follow him for this first playthrough.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I'm assuming the meeting room is the open door. Can you zoom? No. I can't click on anything either. Alright. It's been a while since I played an FPS. This is not the meeting room. All I know is there's no combat, so I feel comfortable about that. Is this the meeting room? Should I have a mouse? Like, should I be able to see? Wow, I was hoping the pause menu brought up a... Okay, cool. Options. Keyboard. I just need to see... Okay, duck to control use items. Mouse button 1. Okay, well, I don't see anything to use, so... Okay.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
All right, like I said, we're going to follow this the first time. Apparently, if you just follow instructions, you'll get to one of the endings.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Where do you think that is? Through the meeting room, maybe? There's a whiteboard manager. It's fantastic. I want one. There's a Cabal planning group? Who puts the time at the bottom of their list and not the top of the column? That's gross. I do have a meeting on Wednesdays at 2. Okay.
Stanley just stood there doing nothing at all. He seems to think I have nothing better to do with my time than to sit around and describe every fascinating little detail of his inability to do anything.
It's true.
This is why Stanley and I are on such good terms.
Look, I don't know how these things go. Broom closet. Sounds like somebody's in the broom closet, which is terrifying. Go up
Coming
the
to
stairs.
a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I'm assuming the door will be open. Ooh, look at that. Oh, that's the executive washroom. No boss.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Look, I don't mind being led around on rails for the first time. We'll start making a mess the next time. Okay. It shows down. It shows down. Better not be anything that's like jumpy out at this. I know there's no combat, but that doesn't mean there's no surprises. Oh, we're gonna have giant loading screens every time? Great experience. To be fair, Half-Life 2 is like 15 years old.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar.
I feel a bit peculiar.
It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Can we get some lights up in here? I'm telling you, the first time something jumps out at me.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Well, that seems awful, but okay. I mean, the narrator told me to do it, so I'm going to do it. That's what I said. Wish I could zoom in. Are we going to push the button? Dear Diary, tending to my husband has been easier than I was afraid it would be. Yes, there's days when it requires more strength than usual to keep going. I'm still getting increasingly more sick. Nothing will change that. But it's not so bad, really. All I have to do is dote on him and try to anticipate his desires, and he's happy with me, no abuse or anything. Sure, it's not like I like him. It's He's an ugly 40-year-old man who cares only about politics and never tells me anything. Love, well, that's certainly no concern. I don't know where I ever get the impression that was something that could happen in a marriage. I thought it was something from the past, but, well, I was young before I got put in stasis. It must have been a mistake of childhood. But so long as I do as I'm told, I'm not mistreated like I was by my sister. And sleeping with him feels good. I really hope I don't get pregnant soon. I don't want that to stop. But doing that is really the only thing that makes me actually happy these days. Well, that and J.E. was talks with me. She's nice. She keeps me company when I stay up to wait for his return. She fetches servants to take me to bed on, and then it's done. Look at all these things. I don't know if we're going to read all those. Obviously, we're going to push the button.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
Perfect.
What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Well, yeah, obviously. Come on now. Is this some sort of like Truman Show? Must be. Anything around these desks we care to look at? That doesn't help. Employee observation protocol. Case of class 3 event, close system gates and consult with supervisor. Prime your consoles for info dump. Wow. Those are all numbers. Oh man, I hope I don't have to do a number puzzle.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers.
Cool.
The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
There's nobody in the buildings. Guys, there's nobody in the buildings. What's that? That one has like an error message on it. That dude was fired. What's the one with the error message on it? I don't know that it's important, but I at least want to know. 528? Wow, look at this. 104 was fired. And 601 looks like. Well, now what? Is that where I came from? Sad, I don't even remember. I think it was. Yeah, it was. People. Sure. I broke the game? No, I paused the game. Silly me. Spacebar's pause.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true.
Why not?
Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Hey, who cares? It's corporate America. Get with the program.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Making me a little sick.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
Why not?
For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
I kind of want to push the button and start screwing with people's lives. Wouldn't you? First off, there aren't 600 of these things, so it's not like it controls everybody. Clearly, he wants me to go to the power. It's a Linux system.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
I mean, I promised you I would do what the narrator said, but I really want to turn it on. I'm assuming that's one of the endings. Simple, straightforward, right through. The volume's good. It's good in my ears.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
You're the narrator. You tell me.
Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking.
Oh yeah, I was.
Perhaps his goal had not been to understand.
Oh, I was.
But to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing.
I hope it's a computer
Stanley
screen.
stepped through the open door.
That would be hilarious. We are going to do that, though, and try and end the whole thing.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path.
I am not controlling the
before
camera,
him.
just FYI.
This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
All right, well, that's our first foray through the Stanley Parable. That's one achievement unlocked of, like 30. So there's a bit more to do. I find myself back in my office again because life is twisted and wrong.
All of his co-workers were
Okay,
gone.
yeah, it just starts
What
over.
did it mean?
It's fine.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he
All
had
right.
simply missed.
Well, we're going to call it right there because we're going to play through the next time. And hopefully these will all be around 20-minute episodes. But I suspect, since the railroad tracks were about 15 minutes, that when we really start getting into this game, it's going to be a little more than 15 minutes. But for now, we are going to call it here. I haven't played through the Stanley Parable once. It's an interesting base story. I can't wait to see what happens and transpires as we continue along. For now, though, that is all she wrote. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments if you did. Certainly click that like button because that will help tell us as well. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And until next time, cheers.